explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like over-capitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well-organized and well-funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia, and welcome to Badlands Daily. Another week in the books. Joined Chris. This is going to blow your mind. Not only is today Friday, and not only is it Friday the 13th, it is back-to-back Friday the 13th. We had one last month as well.
Yeah. It's one of those years, man.
Crazy times. Again, I don't know if it's supposed to be good luck or bad luck, but
I was just reading a post on the internet before we got on saying that the last time there was a Friday the 13th in March was the shutdown of society in 2020. We just passed the 6-year anniversary. March 11th was the night that Trump went from the Oval Office addressing the very deadly pandemic. It was also the day that the NBA and NHL shut down their games, and that Tom Hanks announced that he had caught the flu down in Australia or wherever he was. It all started.
Wasn't he
forever changed? Maybe he was in Greece. I don't know.
Well, I mean, he could have been in Australia, but I thought he moved. Isn't he a Greek citizen now? And they like
Cyprus or something. Yes, I remember hearing that. I think he was in Australia when he announced.
I think you're right.
The disease, but I don't know.
I think you're right on that. Well, here we are, back-to-back Friday the 13th. I don't know if, maybe watch a Jason movie after the show or something. I don't know. Go back to Crystal Lake. But let's go ahead and hit our sponsor for today's show. And guys, spring has sprung at Tamarack Garden. Time for your body to bloom with pure plant-powered magic. Kick off your spring glow up with the best-selling Detox Collection. It lovingly supports your kidneys, your liver, and your lymphatic system, flushing out winter junk for fresh energy, clarity, and that vibrant spring vibe. Then hit the sun safely. Their nourishing sunscreen packed with skin-loving plants and natural SPF, tinted with cocoa for instant golden glow and no white residue, just a radiant you. Protect against mosquitoes and ticks the natural way with their DEET-free plant-powered bug spray. Safe, effective family protection. Their herbal lineup eases headaches, allergies, anxiety, and more, all handcrafted by a fun family in North Idaho since 2021 from local wild weeds and wildflowers. Reclaim your health with one plant at a time with Tamarack Gardens. Visit tamarackgarden.com and use promo code BADLANDS for $10 off orders $50 or more. And love the folks over there at Tamarack Gardens there on the Alpha show, Alphas Make Sandwiches show. And good stuff. All right, let's jump into the news. Before we do that, smash the thumbs up if you have not done so already. It will help out tremendously. And unfortunately, today we start out with some bad news. Yesterday we talked about, I think we talked yesterday. I know we did for sure on SITREP, but the KC-135 that went down over Iraq, at least 4 of those crew members are confirmed dead by U.S. Central Command. It says at approximately 2 p.m. Eastern on March 12th, a U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft went down in western Iraq. 4 of the 6 crew members on board the aircraft have been confirmed deceased as rescue efforts continue. The circumstances of the incident are under investigation. However, the loss of the aircraft was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. The identities of the service members are being withheld for 24 hours until next of kin has been notified. OSINT Technical, I don't know if this is actual or not, but put a photo out here that's allegedly they had said the one, because there were two planes involved in this crash is what's being reported. Allegedly, one of them returned, one of them did not. They were apparently both KC-135s, which is very strange. But this was apparently the damage that was done to one of the KC-135s. You can see the top of the tail fin and the vertical stabilizer just sheared right off. Again, strange.
Yeah, I mean, the initial statement from CENTCOM was strange too. Did they crash in the air? Is that what we're supposed to believe? How did that happen?
Yeah, it was really weird because they said we're aware of the loss of a KC-135 as if like, you know, somebody told them and they weren't monitoring radar or the air or anything like that. And this went down. And then, yeah, like you said, the initial report was that there was a crash, like they collided in midair. How do two refueling tankers collide midair? Like even come close enough that you could touch? You know, I could understand if like a jet that they were refueling, they have accidents like that happen. You know, you missed the line or, you know, something happened. I mean, what was it? Air Force One, I think, where the refueling comes out early, sparks on the plane, and then the plane blows up as a result. I think that was Air Force One, Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the statement they put out yesterday, the initial statement, because there was so little to it. It was very, hold on, here we are. I think I posted this yesterday when it came out. Such a strange statement, though. It said that they were both, I can't find it. It said that they were both involved in the same incident. It wasn't hostile fire. It wasn't friendly fire. Why can't we just be told what it is? Yeah.
Somebody asked in the chat, could they have been refueling each other? So Alpha and I looked this up last night, and the KC-135KR is capable of refueling, receiving fuel from another KC-135. But I think the regular, from what we could find yesterday, the regular KC-135 is not capable of refueling midair itself, or from another, KC-135 stratotanker, I think is what they're called.
Also, I mean, I don't know what the protocol on this stuff is, but it seems like if that's what happened, if they just collided midair, they would tell us that.
Well, they did tell us that they collided, that it was a collision. Yeah, I saw. Where did I see that it was a collision? I think
I don't know, because that's what I took away from the statement, but I don't recall them specifically saying that. And that's going to be my bad memory.
I don't know. Again, fog of war, man. This is a very strange story. And so, yeah. The other question, and I don't know, maybe somebody in the chat, has experience on things like that, but how, if this plane goes down, cause I mean, the KC-135 is essentially similar to a Boeing 707. And so it's, it's not, it doesn't have a rear ramp. I don't think it has a rear ramp like a C-130 or, a C-5, but would the crew on there, when they realize that the fate of the plane is sealed, would they jump and parachute out, or do they go down? Is it like a commercial airline where if you're going to crash, you're SOL, but don't worry, if you land in the water, you've got a life preserver instead of a parachute? Never understood that one for the life of me, but yeah, I don't know, man.
So here's the statement. It says U.S. Central Command is aware of the loss of a U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft. The incident occurred in friendly airspace during Operation Epic Fury, and rescue efforts are ongoing. 2 aircraft were involved in the incident. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq, and the second landed safely. This was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. And then they just kind of conclude, letting you know that, more information will be coming in. So nothing about a collision. It wasn't hostile fire. It wasn't friendly fire. 2 aircraft involved. What is it?
Yeah. Yeah, one person, one vote says the plane has no ejector seats. Yeah, but they have doors and you can jump out the doors. Although if that thing's in a spin or, whatever, good luck with that. They're saying, like they're kind of leaving the door open for the possibility that the other two crew members will somehow be, alive and survive. But
then maybe they can tell us the story. I mean, still, why are we getting this story? Man, there's so much weird stuff happening. And, I'm going to do an episode of my show this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern for paid Substack subscribers, where I go through a model that I've built out of the kind of overall comms picture. And I don't mean like secret comms. I mean, public relations, communication strategies that I see, the patterns that I see, and the way I kind of analyze these things over the last few years. Leaving aside any actuals, the narrative warfare elements are substantial with all of this. We've seen stories like the mine thing in the Strait of Hormuz the other day. I think that was maybe Tuesday, that the rumors, the news cycle started spinning up. Oh, Iran is going to mine the Straits of Hormuz, and that means that, the oil industry is going to be shut down. We need to release the reserve supplies and all that. And then Trump comes out firing on Truth Social saying, if they do that, there's going to be, fire and fury like the world has never seen. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, hey, everybody, we took care of the mines in the Strait of Hormuz.
13 minutes to the moment, 4:07 p.m. and the it's been taken care of at 4:20. We covered that, I think, on Wednesday. That was crazy. Just like,
and he initially said that they had no reports that it was even happening. So it was all media reports that it was happening. Trump says, well, if that happens, we're gonna, unleash hell on these people. And then he's like, actually, no, you know what? We got it taken care of. So in my mind, what that looks like is an enemy psyop that is going to be presented that, if believed, can explain all sorts of global manipulation on oil prices, domestic manipulation on gas prices, and the rest of it. They'll tell all of us this is Trump's fault because he didn't do the right things in this war. But also we have all these terrorist incidents going on. So the war is absolutely necessary. Trump's just not the guy capable of prosecuting it. He's not only ruining the war, he's ruining your economy. And so a series of stories are launched in coordination to cement that anti-Trump viewpoint. And so he'll come out and start putting out his own stories that make it impossible for those stories to take hold. Now, I think that's what's happening in the big picture. I think CENTCOM is involved with that. I think Pete Hegseth is involved with that. And, people are like, well, you can't say that our military's misleading us about what's happening in a war scenario. But of course, the military has units specifically devoted to misleading people about what happens in war scenarios. And so we can actually at least engage that in our thought experiments to see if maybe that is informative about what's going on. So to me, this reads like there was going to be this devastating psyop about how one of our planes had been taken down, and who knows why that would be. But now we've got this disinformation operation, or at least discombobulator confusion operation that eradicates whatever story we were going to be told. And now for some time we are left with confusion. But maybe that'll be alleviated at some point. Who knows?
I gotta point this out. You brought up CENTCOM and the psychological operations? You mind if I bring up that post you shared earlier?
Oh, by all means. I mean, I'm not the one who found this by any means.
Right. I understand that. So CENTCOM put out this tweet right here, U.S. Central Command, and most of the audience here will catch the significance of that little placard right there on the base, it looks like, of this missile launching system. It's right here on my microphone. It's the 4th PSYOP group's Ghost in the Machine. Yeah. And it's there on a Navy ship. And to make it even more WTF, it pops up at the 17-second mark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that is very odd that you would see a Navy ship with an Army, any sort of Army insignia first and foremost, but more importantly, the insignia of a psychological operations group.
Yeah. So this is the Ghost Army insignia right here. The Ghost Army was a United States Army
Tactical Deception Unit during World War II, officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. And then just skipping down in the Wikipedia entry here, during their tenure, the Ghost Army carried out more than 20 deception campaigns, putting on a traveling road show using inflatable tanks, sound trucks, fake radio transmissions, scripts, and pretense. And as for the Ghost Army insignia on a Navy ship, we've actually seen that before. This is the Independent UK from via the AP from Wednesday, the 26th of April, 2023. And actually, when I was researching the image history, I think that this image actually originated on the 18th of April that year. So we have, again, the Ghost Army insignia on what presumably is a Navy ship. This is a story about the issues in the Taiwan Strait, the seas between China and Taiwan. And so we've had this now a couple of times. What are we supposed to make of this is the question. Are we being deceived about elements of this war? I would suggest the answer is yes. And people get really upset when you say that they are being deceived about war, because I guess there's some thought that like the situation is so important that they would never lie to us about this. And then when you say, well, here they're clearly being misleading in this scenario, this looks like disinformation, this is clearly contradictory. They're like, well, yeah, okay, fine. They're lying to the enemy, but they would never lie to us. Well, let's grow up, right? Yes, they would lie to us. Yes, they would. Yes, they do all the time. And we just have to understand that that's part of the information environment.
Did you see the videos that came out? Now, it's attached to Iran. I can't confirm or, that it's actually Iranian, but speaking of, the Ghost Army. Okay, we don't need that awful music.
Yeah.
But they put this out saying, that the Iranian army is outsmarting the United States by making inflatable, aircraft and tanks, and that's, costing us millions of dollars in missiles that we're expending on this instead of, and they're spending a couple $100 on an inflatable helicopter.
Mm-hmm. And so we have Ghost Army action on both sides then, if this is to be believed, and we can just put this as a hypothetical for right now, because we certainly don't know. But then we would have Ghost Army action on both sides. Then the question is, if both sides are doing this, both sides certainly know it. And if both sides certainly know it, why aren't they just making up these little videos using video game technology or whatever else? And then, of course, we see the videos that the White House is putting out where they're actually pairing video game footage like Nintendo Wii with supposed airstrike footage with all Iran stuff blowing up. And all of it is just so ridiculous. And the funny thing is, I said this 2 Saturdays ago, the day that the Iran venture launched, and people were infuriated. Look at what it is 2 weeks later. So I don't know what to say about this stuff, man. Are there actuals happening there? Maybe. I'm sure that there might be. Like there could be. I don't even doubt that there are. Okay. It's entirely possible that certain high value targets are being taken out. Often there's some good work being done on this by this woman who just goes by Morgan on Substack, talking about how a lot of the buildings that are being demolished in these supposed acts of war were already set for demolition, and they have construction projects set up to spring up in their place. And that's true all throughout Gaza. I've been calling that thing a construction project now for like 2 years, because it seems like that's what's happening there. And we can't believe those sorts of things, right? We can't believe that the fires in the Pacific Palisades last a little over a year ago now had anything to do with a construction project. But all of Los Angeles is becoming a construction project in preparation for the World Cup and the Olympics. So, we don't want to think that that's how the world works, but really, come on.
They're on a whole different plane than we are. They operate on a completely different plane, completely different rules and laws, even though they're not supposed to, but they do. completely different circles of, conversations that we'll never be privy to. Yeah, it's absolutely possible that this entire thing, for the sake of the show, we take it at its value, for what it is. But it's always nice to have Chris on Friday to just kind of pull us back in and show us that we might be sitting through a freaking fourth PSYOP group operation here.
Well, you got to take it both ways, okay? And people think that I only analyze this stuff one way, and if they had ever listened to my show, they would realize that's absolutely not true. But it is important to keep this stuff balanced because we have to remain in the proper relationship with the information we're taking in. If we are watching professional wrestling or professional football, or we're watching the Kardashians, or we're watching Game of Thrones, we know that these are meant for entertainment. They're not to inform us about the real world, but we totally lose sight of that when things are presented as news or presented with really dramatic kind of, there's a dramatic backdrop to them. If we see war footage, we think, oh my gosh, people are dying. There's a chance innocents are being killed. There's a chance this war could expand and threaten our own lives. Feels very real. And the stakes are raised when we're being shown a story that we believe to be happening in real life. That means that there's some impact on us personally. Whereas, watching Game of Thrones or professional football, it's like really only our emotional interest in what happens. But there's more going on here. And the people who know that we can be exploited this easily, the idea that they're not using these techniques to exploit us is crazy. Why would we give the enemy the benefit of the doubt that they're not lying to us? And why would we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt in our ability to consistently spot the enemy when we can just look on the internet on a normal day and see that even the most hardcore truthers are just flailing around in the ocean, wondering where there's something to grab onto, because oftentimes there isn't. We are in like a morass. And I just think that we are better set up to deal with this stuff if we admit how confusing it really is.
Yeah, that was one of the, to me, and it was a very necessary part, but in Brad's Codex 9/11 documentary, that was one of the most important parts, was going through and unpacking, exposing people to the propaganda and the mis and disinformation deliberately thrust upon the people. When you go back and look, I think the examples he used was, the 1930s when they, Nazis are throwing babies on the ground, right? And then you fast forward to the Iraq war, and it's, the testimony of that 15-year-old girl. The babies, they took them out of the incubator and they threw them on the ground. And then you find out that that girl at the time, she's a woman now, was the daughter of, the ambassador, and the events never happened. This was all propaganda to influence a war. Are we seeing the same thing here? I mean, I don't know. All we get is, we talked about this the day that these strikes kicked off. All we get are these 12-second grainy ass footage, and we're supposed to be, believe that this is definitely Iranian missiles hitting Tel Aviv, and there's nothing outside of just that grainy ass footage. So it is, all of war is, winning the narrative battles, and that's what you got to do.
Go ahead. Again, because these comments always pop up in the chat. We're talking about two different levels here, okay? It's entirely possible that there are actual things happening over there and that real people's lives are being lost and put at risk, okay? I'm not trying to minimize that. Most of that, if not all of that, is unknowable. What we can know, what we do have contact with, is what we are being told and who is telling us those things. And when we see the White House presenting war footage alongside footage from children's video games, which Nintendo Wii are like made so that they are appropriate for all ages. These are like, it's not Call of Duty that they're showing us next to it. Although I could pull up a scene from Call of Duty that is exactly like the airstrike footage that we are seeing. And I'm happy to do that. When the White House is doing that, you have to step back from the information and think, if they are handling this with this level of seriousness, am I missing something? And I would suggest that people
who are all wrapped up in the emotion and the reality of this are in fact missing something when the White House is telling you, hey, remember how you have been shown war as entertainment since the Gulf War? This is what it is. And, you know, I don't know, man. We don't have to go too far into all that stuff, but
no, that's when they put out that Tropic Thunder movie clip, the White House, I was like, this is bad form for a, you know, a legitimate war. Like, you know, we've already lost, you know, reportedly, you know, 7 troops in the first day. We just lost a KC-135, even though it's not combat related, allegedly, reportedly. You know, that's double digits now that we've lost in a matter of 2 weeks without boots even being on the ground. And so if that is, you know, if all of that is true, putting out a video where you're, you know, basically playing all these movie clips of, you know, badassery, sure, it's motivational, but it's also kind of distasteful. And unless you're showing them that this is, you know, it's not what they're telling you it is, because they want it to be something that it's not. And I witnessed this when I was in the Marine Corps. You know, one of the big stories that came out, you know, around the time I was in, it was actually the unit that relieved me, was the soldiers pissing on the Taliban. Did you see that? Remember that story? The soldiers peeing on dead Taliban. Yeah. And what they don't tell you, and again, that sparked outrage. And I don't know if that was an effort to get us out of the war, to prolong, you know, to motivate them to fight harder, right? The Taliban sees this and, oh, look, they're pissing on us, we need to fight harder. I don't know. But what they never tell you is that those Taliban trapped those soldiers. They were Marines, excuse me. They were stay snipers, and they took their comrades' body parts that had been blown up by an IED, hung them from a tree, and tried to lure them in to get the body parts with IEDs underneath them. So they tried to lure them into a trap, and when they killed them for doing it, they pissed on them. Should it have been released publicly? No, absolutely not. However, it was, and they used that. That went everywhere. It went super viral. And was that a you know, a piece of you know, a psychological operation to either incite more violence from the other side, or to, you know, lose public sentiment for the fight and get us to pull out? Who knows?
Yeah. And, you know, another important thing to remember throughout all of this is that Donald Trump has said pretty specifically and pretty directly over the years, over many years now, and has repeated it many times, that he is going after the political establishment in both parties, right? Not just the Democrats. He's not trying to just defeat the Democrats. He's trying to defeat the corrupt political establishment and hand power back to the people. At least that is what he has said many, many times. So do we still have the Republican establishment with some level of power? Are neocons still out there wielding significant power in media, in the military industrial complex, in global intelligence? The answer has to be yes. And so if they are doing that, and if they are the adversarial party from Donald Trump, the fact that they both want war with Iran, you know, I'm saying Trump's side wants war to the extent that he is prosecuting this war, that he has started this war scenario in the first place. So we have two sides that want war with Iran. Are those the same side? No, they're adversarial sides. So what would you do then if a real situation was happening and one side and the other side were trying to use that very same situation to achieve different and divergent political goals? Well, you would tell entirely different stories about them. So it would be really, really important to figure out which of those stories, if either of them, are actually true, and at minimum, which stories are being told by the enemy, so that we don't go all in on supporting things from that angle. And there doesn't seem to be any commitment to doing that whatsoever in the truth community, online, whatever. And the fact that there is no commitment to doing that because everybody just wants to show you how much they know about a war that they just heard about 2 weeks ago, and they want to virtue signal their patriotism or their willingness to fight from their couch or whatever it is, we never actually get down to that. And what ends up happening is a lot of people who tell you that they support Trump till the ends of the earth are actually just spending their time supporting the enemy, not knowing it. And that's unfortunate. It has to stop at some point, or we're going to be stuck here forever. I pulled up the Call of Duty footage. I think that this is totally worth looking at, because this is legitimately just Call of Duty from, I think this version was put out in 2023.
Take out the jet. Shoot in front of him. That's right, motherfuckers. Jet number 2 is down. Welcome to Urzikstan. I'm green. Shit, pistol incoming. Loading round. Good hit. Stinger down. Gunner, push Coney back from the hangar. Keep the ground team.
I mean, how far off are we?
You know what's funny is last night we played on SitRep. I played at the end of the show footage of an AC-130 gunship and like what it's like to be inside of one while these missions are going on. And like anybody that, and granted, I didn't know this before, but anybody that's ever been on an AC-130 or done fire missions with an AC-130 knows that you're not just willy-nilly shooting around everywhere like that. These are actually fire missions that are called in. There's, you know, protocol you have to go through before you're opening fire like that. That wasn't even like close to. Did in that video, is it represented as video game footage or is it represented as real life?
In what I was just watching?
Yeah.
Well, that is actual gameplay footage from Call of Duty. That is a mission that you can play. Yes.
Who posted that?
Oh, I just went and found it on YouTube because I played the game a few years ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, because I mean, we've seen the Ghost of Kyiv. Remember when the Ukraine war is the first time when we acknowledged, granted, it's probably been going on for a while, but that's the first time we picked up on and acknowledged that, hey, that's a video game. That, you know, the fighter jets going around, and we've seen it for this one. In fact, my wife sent me a video and she's like, look at this pilot's awesome. And I'm like, babe, that's a video game. She's like, oh shit, it is. Yeah. But that's how easy, that's how easy it can happen. So,
and then we had the bowling video the other night. Did you play that on here?
No.
Did you see this?
No.
So this is also posted by the White House.
For somebody that's not on social media, you sure are tracking.
Man, you gotta still track stuff. And I have people that send me stuff too.
Strike.
Oh no.
Claim it. A strike to claim it. And he got it! Pins down. What a strike! That's right! Who do you think you are? I am.
That's the White House TikTok account. And while we're at it, we might as well play this as well because Larry and David Ellison now.
Or more fake news from CNN. Reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that David Ellison is Larry Ellison's son. Larry Ellison started Oracle. That's a Defense Department contractor. It has been for a long time. They house like some unconscionable amount of the world's data. They have housed the TikTok data since 2020. It has been obvious that they were going to take some role in TikTok. I don't think we've seen the end of that story. So you have the White House releasing these really silly videos on TikTok that have upset so many people. And then you have the Secretary of the Department of War saying that he cannot wait until Larry Ellison's son, David, takes over CNN.
So let's, on that note right there, I thought this was really interesting. So we covered this story yesterday from ABC News. FBI warned police departments in California that Iran wants to retaliate for American attacks by launching offensive drones against the West Coast, according to an alert reviewed by ABC News. Now, it's already gotten user community noted saying ABC presented the text of the alert sent to law enforcement agencies as a verbatim quote, but the story removed the word unverified from the quoted text. And so Caroline Levitt said the post and story should be immediately retracted by ABC News for providing false information to intentionally alarm the American people. They wrote this based on one email that was sent to local law enforcement in California about a single unverified tip. The email even states the tip was based on quote unquote unverified intelligence. Yet ABC News left out that critical fact in their story. Why? To be clear, no such threat from Iran to our homeland exists, and it never did. And then we also got, and keep that post in mind, but President Trump also addressed this.
They try to hit us back. Have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with his stupid open border. But we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
Is it dozens?
They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country. And we've got our eyes on all of them. But the war itself is being prosecuted at a level that nobody's seen before. It's pretty amazing to watch.
So, Caroline Levitt saying the threats don't exist. President Trump saying we've got our eyes on all of them. We believe on all of them. But here was the most interesting thing about this, Chris, and this is kind of going to your point about the media is, so ABC News puts that story out. This is Jennifer Jacobs of CBS News. She's the senior White House reporter. And she kind of passive aggressively blasts ABC News here. She says multiple U.S. and state law enforcement and intel officials told CBS News there is no credible intelligence underpinning the bulletin distributed on the unverified possibility that Iran could retaliate for American attacks by launching drones at the West Coast. Quote, this is not actionable, a California-based federal law enforcement official told CBS. All this means is we got this information and we want to get it out to law enforcement executives to make sure they're up to speed on it. There is absolutely nothing more to it. And then it says the bulletin to local law enforcement by the FBI's LA division stemmed from an apparent tip that surfaced prior to the Iranian conflict. That I thought that was very interesting that you got CBS kind of playing and CBS, Trump has been all over them since the 60 Minutes thing. And, it's kind of interesting to see them pushing back on ABC News like that.
Well, CBS is also Larry and David Ellison.
Yeah.
And so we have billionaires owning these media outlets through which we are receiving the information about this war scenario. That particular warning, a lot of people I think have maybe taken Caroline Levitt's comments and gone a little bit over the top of what I think she was saying. I think she was specifically referring to that threat on the homeland. A lot of people have taken it to mean that there's no Iranian threat on the homeland. And I'm not sure if there is or there isn't. But the idea that Iranian sleeper cells are going to jump up and start attacking America is something that has been pushed for years now. And I mean, every time Iran is mentioned in the news, Laura Loomer is out there telling everybody that Iran has sleeper cells about to attack. And then all of a sudden we get that notion backfilled with these random trauma events all across the country. And we immediately blame them on the situation in Iran because we've been conditioned to do exactly that.
I want to pull up just another story just briefly because we covered this already as well, but this is along the same lines of what we just saw with that ABC News report, CBS blasting them, President Trump, not blasting them directly, but Caroline Levitt blasting them. This was The Guardian yesterday as well. U.S. responsible for deadly missile strikes on Iran, preliminary inquiry says. And I'll zoom out here just because I'm not going to get crazy in this, but every purple thing you see on the screen right there is them using that language of deception, right? Deceptive language in order to safely convey their narrative that they want people to believe, right? Words like, well, they say preliminary, but reportedly, quoting unnamed sources, familiar with the initial findings, familiar. That's anybody that's in journalism, familiar means you've heard about it. Essentially, right? Not directly involved, nothing like that. There's qualifiers to the way that they word these things. And so when somebody says familiar with a situation, that means they know about it. So it could be me saying, well, yeah, I know they're doing a report. I don't think they're going to find anything in it. And they'll be like, a source familiar with the report says that he doesn't think they're going to find anything in it. And that deceives everybody that's reading that. So that's,
I think it's hugely important to notice what you just pointed out. That is present in almost all mainstream media reporting, especially the stuff that is designed to condition us to have a certain response once we hear about an event in the world taking place. Oh yeah, I read about that thing that they said might happen. Here it is. It's happened exactly the way they said it would. Now we have to respond the way they encouraged us to respond. That's how we've naturally been, or not naturally. That's how we've been trained to interact with the information as it comes in. Think about what it would be like if you were at a barbecue and one of your buddies brought his like new girlfriend by and she started telling you a story with that level of detail and despite the detail, that level of uncertainty, right? I heard that they probably did this. It was reported that they did that. And, I don't really know. It's from these two unnamed sources, and then you get the big emotional push about how dramatic the whole thing is. You would turn and be like, this chick doesn't know anything. And because it's coming through from like a news outlet that we've been told throughout our entire lives is one of the best possible places to understand the outside world, we just ignore the fact that they are telling us they're doubting it. So we have people who have lied to us for decades on end on purpose to exploit us, telling us they don't even know the truth about what they're talking about. And yet we still are inclined to believe it. That is a sick relationship with information.
100%. There you go for the huck buck. We haven't gotten a huck buck in a while, so that you've
what's a huck buck?
Huck Fillery says I say 100% too much. So every show that I don't say 100% in that context, I get a huck buck. So now the huck bucks have dried out.
Swear jar.
The USAID funding has dried out for Huck Fillery. So I am back to my 100%. So I'm calling an audible here because Chris, guides me in different directions with some of his insight here. So let's jump into this story. Armed FBI agents carry out search warrant believed to be in connection with synagogue attacker. Now this is going to lead to the next story, so bear with me for a second here. So we've got this story here. Armed FBI agents executed the search warrant in Dearborn Heights in Wayne County. The raid came hours after a suspect rammed a vehicle into the Temple Israel, a large Reform synagogue in West Bloomfield. The suspect, identified as Aman Mohammed Ghazali, a 41-year-old, allegedly rammed the synagogue and opened fire at security guards with a rifle. Armed security returned fire and shot him dead. During the incident, the vehicle caught fire, filling the building with smoke. All staff and 140 students were evacuated. No casualties except for the guy. A chemical agent was found inside the truck, indicating a possible explosive device. So that's the update on that story. But that leads me to the next story because I had these back to back here. There was a shooting at Old Dominion College, University. I don't know if it's university. Yeah, University. And first and foremost, absolute accolades to the people that subdued them. Check this out, dude. Where is it? There we go.
There were students who were in that room that subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot?
He was not shot.
He shot 3 people?
Correct. We have information that he shot 3 people.
The one that went to Virginia.
Okay, so he shot 3. One was actually killed, but listen to the actual story of what we're told happened. From 4 NBC News, ROTC students at Old Dominion subdued and killed shooter who left 1 dead. A former Army National Guard member who spent 8 years in prison for attempting to aid the Islamic State opened fire on a classroom in Virginia's Old Dominion University on Thursday before ROTC students subdued and killed him. He yelled Allahu Akbar before the shooting, which left 1 person dead and 2 wounded, according to the FBI. Dominique Evans, special agent in charge of the FBI's Norfolk office, said the campus shooting is being investigated as an act of terrorism. Said the students, subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. That's the clip we played. Kash Patel said it's being investigated as an act of terrorism. Now, before we get into the story, massive hat tip to those ROTC students that, took this into their own hands, confronted him, got him on the ground, and killed him. Not subdued him, killed him. Good job. Job well done.
They stabbed him, right? Isn't that the report?
I haven't seen any reporting on how they did it. Maybe they did stab him, I mean, I guess, and every object is a weapon. So I don't know.
They could have disarmed him, right?
Well, they said he wasn't shot. They said he was subdued and he was unalived, I think was her exact words, unalived.
Quite a lot of confusion today.
Yeah. But listen to this. And major hat tip to NBC for reporting this. This is very interesting. Evans said that Jallo, that's the guy's name, the terrorist, alleged terrorist, Jallo aspired to conduct a terrorist attack like the 2009 killings at Fort Hood. Jallo had pleaded guilty in 2016 to attempting to aid the Islamic State and was sentenced to 11 years in prison. He was on supervised release, which is comparable to probation, when he carried out the attack. It wasn't immediately clear why his release from prison had been moved up. Note that. Okay, that's an important notation right there. Jump down here. Jallo is a naturalized U.S. citizen from Sierra Leone. The Virginia Army National Guard confirmed he served as a specialist from 2009 to 2015 when he was honorably discharged. Now, they say specialist. A lot of people will be like, oh, what was he a specialist? That's his rank. So he's not like a specialist in anything specific. According to a 2016 FBI affidavit filed in his criminal case, Jallo told a government informant that he quit the National Guard after hearing lectures from radical cleric Anwar al-Awlaki. I can never say him. That's the guy that, by the way, who is that guy, Chris?
Man, I remember the name. I would have to go review that. I haven't looked at that stuff in so long.
He's the U.S. citizen in Yemen that Barack Obama drone struck and killed him and his teenage son, U.S. citizens, without any due process of law.
Mm-hmm.
Anwar al-Awlaki. I can never say that. Anyways, reading on. So are we seeing the picture that's starting to already be laid out here? Radical Islamic extremist working with government informants. Okay, so he's got government informants around him. Okay, let's keep going. A court affidavit recounts a 3-month-long sting operation in which Jallo, then 26, said he was thinking about carrying out an attack similar to the 2009 shootings at Fort Hood, which left 13 people dead. Authorities launched the 2016 operation after Jallo made contact with Islamic State members in Africa earlier that year. Jallo later told the informant that the Islamic State group had asked if he wanted to participate in an attack. He tried to donate $500 to the Islamic State, but the money actually went into an account controlled by the FBI. Let me read that again. Jallo later told the informant that the Islamic State group had asked if he wanted to participate in an attack. He tried to donate $500 to that Islamic State, but it went to the FBI. Did the FBI ask him to participate in an attack?
Well, isn't it funny also that the Michigan incident with the synagogue yesterday involved the FBI's Detroit field office, which is the same field office that participated in the kidnapped Gretchen Whitmer psyop? Stephen
D'Antuono.
Well, D'Antuono then went to DC, though, right? He's not there anymore.
No, he's not there anymore, but he went to DC. But, fish rots from the head down, and if the head rotted that body out. But, dude, that is a key detail right there.
Yeah, sure is. Yes. And the ISIS relationship, too. I mean, a lot of the people in our audience certainly think that Obama has some pretty substantial role in the creation and the expansion of ISIS. Now, we have at least 3 trauma events since the beginning of the Iran incident, all of which are attributed to Muslim extremists. And that is exactly what we were told we were going to have. Here's this Iran war. What you're going to have is attacks in the United States of America. They're going to be Islamic extremists that are angry about the Iran situation, though none of them seem to have direct connections to Iran in any way. It's just like, okay, these are Muslims. Muslims get mad at wars, and then they go kill people and get themselves killed. All right. I guess that in some way must make sense. But why are we attributing the responsibility for this to Iran rather than Obama?
Let me read the rest of this, Chris, because it gets a little bit. I mean, that's the giveaway right there. You know, and for those that don't understand what we're talking about here, this is a tactic that the FBI has used for eons, right? Since its inception, maybe. They'll go out there and they'll use these informants to push somebody in the direction of committing a crime. I think Dinesh D'Souza, when he did his police state documentary, the one, you know, with Bongino and all that, he talks about a guy that was, you know, I think he owned like a construction company or something. He was a Muslim. And, you know, he says, well, somebody gave me $50,000 and said, hey, we need you to carry out an attack. And the guy was like, cool. I kept the 50,000 and disappeared, you know, and they arrested him for that. And so you look at this and it's like the same concept. There's been stories like this all the time. There was a guy that was autistic, a white guy, not a Muslim, but was autistic. And they coerced him into, you know, driving a van filled with fake explosives under a federal building and blowing it up the same way the Oklahoma City bombing was orchestrated. And they arrested him for that. You know, like this is a guy that's autistic, you know, may not understand what is being, you know, what he's being told to do. And they give him the means to do it, you know, all but they're fake. And he goes out and they arrest him for it. Now, when you think about making an arrest like that and the FBI gets to perp walk that guy and be like, look, we're doing a really, really good job. Well, how many times is the explosives real? And then when that event happens, we're told we're under attack. We need to ramp up the police state. We need to get all this stuff going. President Trump just told us in there, we're watching all of these sleeper cells, guys. Relax. We're watching them. So I don't know. Here's another. Go ahead.
I was just going to say on Trump's comments on that, I think that those are really interesting. Again, if we're talking about narrative level here, leaving the actual incidents aside, we are being told from the adversarial side repeatedly that Iranian sleeper cells are going to attack in the United States of America. And those will be used the way, quote unquote, terrorist incidents have always been used in the United States by the media and global intel and the rest of it to convince the people that we need to go to war with Islam. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that Islam is a good religion. I believe there's only one true religion, and I don't care about the rest of them. I do not obviously condone any sort of violence in the name of any religion whatsoever. So we can put all of that aside. But if you were the actual adversary and you wanted to kind of blunt or nullify the growing opposition to what you were doing, you would try to do something really bad over there that would make all the people look over there instead of at you. And because this, because the black thing is always something that they can gin back up, because the Muslim thing is something they can always gin back up, whenever they need these dramatic distractions, they always go to those same wells, knowing that a lot of America is going to bite on it and then stop looking at the global entity that is occupying our federal government and orchestrating this stuff around the world.
Agreed. By the way, clip that. Did you know that if you say on StreamYard, if you say clip that, the AI generation will pick that up? Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great.
So Alpha told me this yesterday, blew my mind. So when we're watching shows, if I say, hey, let's clip that, like clip back 5 minutes, the whole segment we just did, it will go back and it'll put you in the particular area.
Well, that's pretty cool.
That is badass. So let's get back into this real quick. So Jallo, after he tries to make this $500 donation to the Islamic State, which is an FBI account, which the Islamic State reached out to him and asked if he wanted to participate in an attack. That's entrapment, by the way. If that was an FBI informant, that's entrapment. Okay. Jallo then tried to buy an AR-15, but was turned away because he lacked the proper paperwork. He returned
it was an AR-15.
Right, of course. He returned the next day and bought a different assault rifle that was rendered inoperable before he left the store. He was arrested the following day. Did he actually not have the right paperwork? Or did they know that he was coming in? And this was an op they ran against him. Look, for all we know, sure, the FBI could have done great work. They could have done great work getting this guy and everything else. Or they could have just fed this guy the information, right? Oh, the one last thing. Hold on, before I make that point, because you have to know this. Inmates convicted of terrorism-related offenses are not eligible to reduce their sentences for good behavior or participation in a residential drug abuse treatment program. So the guy was convicted in 2016, sentenced to 11 years. What's 2016 plus 11, Chris?
I feel like that would be 2027, and that hasn't happened yet.
I know that's really tough math, and I know, but you're right. 2027, and we're not in 2027 yet. So this guy has been out released early. Why was he released early? If he was in there for terrorism-related charges, he was working with the Islamic State. He was going to go on a military base and kill a bunch of our service members. That's a pretty heinous accusation, to be convicted of. And he was released early. Why was he released early? When was he released? And how much of this story? Imagine, Chris, if you know that you were set up, like somebody set you up. They went in there, they conducted a psychological operation on you, psy-acted you into doing something, pushed you in a direction. Maybe he just felt Al-Awlaki should not have been murdered. Maybe, because I think he shouldn't have been murdered. He absolutely should have had due process. Maybe he was a little bit radicalized in that regard. But then all of a sudden, you orchestrate this entrapment plot. You get the guy, you lock him up for 8 years. It's supposed to be 11. You lock him up for 8 years. He gets out and he's like, fuck this place, man. You see what these people did to me? And then you push him in this direction. I don't know, man.
Yeah, possibly. Or maybe they're just using patsies for stuff like they always do. And the details about his life and the things that have happened to him are just as concocted as the stories they're telling. I mean, fine, we can step away from this particular incident right now. It's been less than 24 hours. We should give it a little breathing room. We can take a look at some of the details and stuff a few days down the line, a few weeks down the line. We're probably going to have a different outlook on the story then than we will now. But we can look back on some of the more recent and more famous patsies of the last couple of years. Thomas Matthew Crooks, Tyler Robinson. Do those seem like real people, or do they seem like characters that were constructed? I would take the second one just without a second's thought. I mean, what are we supposed to make of this stuff? The histories on them. Was he a patsy back in 2015 that they are just now recycling? Do they use patsies whose stories have been blown up without them knowing it? I mean, man, there's just so many levels to this. And again, I know that this stuff's frustrating for people and they want to just take it at face value and get to the bottom of it and search out all the details so that we can feel like we really have a firm grip on these situations. But we are having hybrid warfare waged against us. Okay. It's not that the United States is fighting Iran and that's the war. The war is the global entity versus us. And we hope that elements of the United States and these other countries around the world have factions within them that are on our side. But there is no doubt whatsoever that the informational warfare is being waged directly at us. We are the targets, okay? And so we need to then individually and personally be defending ourselves from this stuff. And the way we do that is by exercising skepticism and withholding belief from when we're receiving information from sources that we know to be dishonest, or at the very least unreliable. And every element of our government falls in that category, okay? And so when you stand in the proper relationship to that information, you really do have to step back and say, okay, I get that these are big, important incidents. We want to get these things right. Well, the people telling us about all these things, no matter how much we want to trust the government because Trump runs it, or the military because Trump runs it, these are unreliable sources. We saw them be unreliable 2 years ago when Joe Biden was fake president. Was the government a reliable source of information for us? Was Joe Biden's military? You don't know who's communicating to us. Is it the TV generals that Trump talks about? Or is it the many great people we have certainly serving in the armed forces? We don't know where that information is coming from. Did Donald Trump eliminate all of the administrative deep state? All the bad actors that were there in Joe Biden's presidency, in Trump term 1, in Obama, in Bush, in Clinton? Of course not.
And those people are still there and they're still exercising power. They are still following the same agenda they always followed. We have to maintain some doubt with these things.
Yes. And President Trump he's showing us in a lot of the messaging that he's putting out there, like we talked about earlier, the mining of the Strait of Hormuz. He was like, first, we've never heard this report. This is new to us. Then we've heard the reports. We're looking into it. 13 minutes later, we blew up 10 ships. It's all done. It's all done. You can proceed to go through the Strait of Hormuz, right? And then we saw the same thing with the initial. The ships don't want to go through. They're afraid they're going to get blown up. And what does he do? He comes out and says, "Hey, we're gonna give you maritime insurance. Okay, we're gonna give you insurance. Yep. If anything happens to you, the United States has got you. We got you. We're gonna bring our Navy over there. We're gonna escort you through there." The FBI comes out, or ABC comes out and reports on this Iranian sleeper cell drones, and Trump comes out and says, "Guys, we're tracking all the Iranian sleeper cells." Like every single time that they try and propagandize this war in a direction that is going to either incite fear in Americans or incite fear in economics that would adversely affect Americans, President Trump is out in front of that right away. And we haven't seen one of their claims come to fruition. Now, do I expect one of them to? Yes, I do expect one of these claims, whether it's the drones, I expect something to happen, and I expect it to be an absolute false flag. And it will really happen, but it won't be an Iranian sleeper cell unless it's Jalo being bought off by the FBI.
And I know I'm the crazy one and stuff, but that California drone thing, again, they're hosting the World Cup. And what was Trump tweeting about or truthing about? Yeah, the Iranian soccer team, and suggesting, well, first he was offering asylum to the Iranian women's team, the implication being that a few of them went Colin Kaepernick. And so therefore, all of them were going to be like tortured and killed when they got back to Iran, which was ridiculous on its face. But then he started talking about the Iranian team coming to play in the World Cup and saying that they're totally welcome, but maybe they shouldn't come because their lives might be at risk. And so you have to start wondering if these stories are connected somehow, because they are being presented together in a timeline that connects on an issue-related basis. Trump posted this on Truth Social this morning, by the way. I think this is totally worth reading. I meant to pull it up earlier. We are totally destroying the terrorist regime of Iran, militarily, economically, and otherwise. Yet, if you read the failing New York Times, you would incorrectly think that we are not winning. Iran's Navy is gone. Their Air Force is no longer. Missiles, drones, and everything else are being decimated, and their leaders have been wiped from the face of the earth. We have unparalleled firepower, unlimited ammunition, and plenty of time. Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. They have been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years. And now I, as the 47th president of the United States of America, am killing them. What a great honor it is to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So we have unlimited ammo. They are all being destroyed. He said the other night that the war was very complete. He said that we've won. We've won so much. We won immediately after the Iran war started. And yet we also have to finish the job, and it could go on indefinitely.
It's really,
by the way, the same place that he's been in for years when it comes to Ukraine.
What's really interesting about that comment is the unlimited ammo. It's because you brought up the video games earlier, right? When you're on that AC-130 in that video game clip, you have unlimited ammo. It doesn't run out. Guess what? In real life, it fucking runs out. It runs out. Eventually, you don't have any more ammo. And so what happens? You have to get your log train comes and resupplies you. You reload. Well, guess what? Eventually, you can't keep up with the demand. Supply and demand is an actual thing, unless the war is not what it's being pushed on us. And we do actually have unlimited ammo because, well, either the ammunition is the Truth Social post and the rhetoric that goes out there, the propaganda that's being, used to push back against their propaganda, or it's just not real at all. And that's very interesting, man.
The discombobulator never runs out of ammo. It is free to operate. It is effective every time. Beautiful. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, about the ammo thing. If Iran is doing that with the inflatables and we are being told that that's what our video game airstrikes are hitting. Well, that's to expend all of our ammo, right? If it goes along with that version of the story.
That is fascinating, man. Let's jump into this clip here. So Alex Karp, he's like the I think, is he the sole CEO or is he the co-CEO of Palantir? Alex Karp?
I think he's just the sole CEO.
Sole CEO. So he's a little screwy. But listen to the messaging here. This is, I think, again, I know we're in a Cold War right now. We're in the AI Cold War. It's not front of mind for every single person out there, but the people that are in the information warfare, in the info war like we are, we understand that the AI, what it's going to mean for society moving forward, but also what it's going to mean in terms of, creation of data centers, nuclear energy in order to power them, and those kinds of things. Listen to what Alex Karp is saying here.
Industry has to support the warfighter. The one thing, though, that I think even now is underestimated by all actors in industry, and including in Silicon Valley, is how disruptive these technologies are. If you are going to disrupt the economic and therefore political power significantly of one party's base, highly educated, often female voters who vote mostly Democrat, and military and working class people who do not feel supported, and you feel like you believe that that's going to work out politically, you're in an insane asylum. Like, that you cannot have it. This technology disrupts humanity's trained, largely Democratic voters, and makes their economic power less, and increases the economic power of vocationally trained, working class, often male voters. And so these disruptions are going to disrupt every aspect of our society. And to make this work, we have to come to an agreement of what it is we're going to do with the technology. How are we going to explain to people who are likely going to have less good and less interesting jobs from their perspective? And how is it that we are going, and by the way, on the military thing, these technologies are dangerous societally. The only justification you could possibly have would be that if we don't do it, our adversaries and will do it, and we will be subject to their rule of law. So if you decouple this from the support of the military, you're going to have an enormous problem explaining to the American people, why is it that we're absorbing the risk of disrupting the very fabric of our society, including the most powerful parts of our society, if it's not because it's about maintaining our ability to be American in the near term and long term. And
so Karp is invoking essentially the prisoner's dilemma here. If I don't do it, my adversary is going to do it, and saying the AI race, the Cold War, essentially the AI Cold War, needs to continue, not because it's going to be destructive to society. It's going to crush society. It's going to change, maybe not crush it, but it's going to change it as we know it, without a question. But we have to continue on because our enemies will do it. And if we don't do it, then that's, but the interesting thing to me there, Chris, is in the beginning of that, monologue that he goes into there, he's talking about politics in America, and he's garnering the support, or trying to rally the support, of conservatives by saying, well, Democrats are going to be most hit by this. You guys are going to be fine. You guys are the blue collar workers. The conservatives are the guys that are out there, fixing pipes and welding and everything else. And the military guys, the Democrats are the ones that are going to be royally fucked over by this. So rally behind it. But at the same time, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. I thought that was a really interesting, kind of ploy, would you call it a ploy or a play to garner that support?
Yeah, either one. I read his book. He is a very strange fellow.
Yes.
He has a very skewed materialistic view of what morality looks like. And someone in his position who is an avowed technologist and scientific materialist is going to have a strange view about those things. He wants to make the world operate in a certain way. And he thinks that employing these practical measures to achieve the outcome he desires is going to be good and good for everyone and approved by everyone. I don't see any reason to believe that. I don't see any reason to put any faith or trust in the people at Palantir, even if they are doing something good, which I will, I guess, allow for. It doesn't seem like there's a path to that. But if they are doing something good, again, we should still have the proper relationship to what Palantir is doing, which is one where we are many arms lengths away expressing extreme skepticism about what they're doing. Because what's happening is that without the people's knowledge or consent, massive amounts of our power, our energy, our privacy, all of these things are being turned over to the machine, to people like this who say that they have our best interests at heart. For instance, and there's ways to appeal to quote unquote conservatives that get them to the same place that the progressives are going. And of course, that's the point of controlled opposition and the uniparty in the first place. But if you want to set up a surveillance and security state within the United States, which I would suggest is the entire purpose of the Department of Homeland Security, well, you're going to tell the American people that we need to do this down at the border to slow illegal immigration. So we have surveillance and tracking, we have drones and phone or internal identification so that we can always know where everyone is. And so that's fine. And then they bring it internally. And we kind of talked about this with some of the Minnesota stuff. But when they are monitoring and surveilling protest movements, for instance, they're using the same tools. And conservatives say, well, you know, we need to keep our neighborhoods safe, of course. And these tools help us to keep the neighborhoods safe. Look at what they did at the border. And then all of a sudden you set up a police state in your own city. And so, you know, it's really easy once these things get started to keep going with them because you think that the practical payoff is going to be totally worth it. But you have to think about where we are actually being led. And it is okay to be skeptical about those things, regardless of who the president is.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. The one thing that worries me is the pivot to that mentality that somebody's going to do it. So why not our side? Yeah. And that's, you know, I to be fair, I suffer from this to an extent. Like if somebody's going to feel that void, I would rather it be somebody that's aligned with President Trump in this particular, you know, situation. And it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Did you see and this is kind of breaking, this just happened this morning, but Miguel Diaz-Canel, the president of Cuba, put out a message, and let's go ahead and we're not going to play it because it's all in Spanish, but he put out, this is from Augustin Antonetti on X, the historic moment when the dictator of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, announces on national broadcast that they've given in to the pressure and are officially in negotiations with the United States. And I asked Grok to translate it for me. It said that in accordance with the consistent policy that has always been presented by the Cuban Revolution under the direction of the Army General as the historical leader of our revolution and mine, and in consultation with the main bodies of the party, the government and the Cuban state, Cuban officials, the government of the United States, to seek through dialogue a possible solution to the bilateral differences that exist between our two nations. These exchanges have been facilitated by international actors, and here I want to pause. We have always been in tense situations in relation with the state. Efforts appear to seek channels of dialogue, conversation, in which Cuba enters into a conversation of this type. I believe that the most recent example was the way the Army General conducted the conversations with President Obama. It is a very recent stage, and we all know the results that those gave that conversation. Now, also a group of international actors facilitated development of those exchanges. What are the purposes we are following with these conversations? With the purposes that we have set for ourselves, we'll first of all determine what are the bilateral problems that need a solution. And did President Trump do something about it?
Well, he reposted a story from USA Today with the headline, Cuba confirms talks with Trump officials raising hopes for U.S. deal. So I would suggest, again, this is one of those adversaries that has been built up over our lifetimes. And a lot of this stuff has been going on since the end of World War II. But this is one of those deep state adversaries that doesn't happen to be a real adversary. And Trump is making these stories, he's kind of nullifying these stories so that they no longer have the power to convince Americans that we need to go on military adventures all around the world.
This is going to be, if he can pull this off. And he said, during the press conference earlier this week on Monday from Doral, which is not lost on me, Doral, that's where his golf course is, but that's North Cuba. That's the joke we have in Florida, is that anything in Miami is North Cuba, but Doral is a very Cuban friendly town. And he said during that thing that the Khamenei regime in Iran, we're going to keep it internal. We're going to use the formula that we developed in Venezuela, and I think that we're going to see that pan out Venezuela, Iran, and then succeeding on to Cuba. And that is going to be wildly popular in Florida, at least. I mean, if Trump opens up bilateral negotiations and opens up, amicably with Cuba, Florida will be red for forever. I mean, for the foreseeable future, because the Cuban population, I mean, Miami-Dade County already voted for him in 2024. It will go completely in that direction. So
is there some indication from your experience and from whatever vibe you get of Florida that there is some Cuban faction down there that does not want to see Trump make some sort of deal with Cuba, or is there just overwhelming agreement even at the highest levels of that society, like the businessmen, the globalists, those people, the rich kind of elite South Florida Cuban population? Are they all aligned with this as well?
So I think I know what you're kind of setting up here, and that's the comparison with Venezuela. Because our Venezuelan population down here are granted, only Siths deal in absolutes, right? But the majority of our, I tell this story all the time. The city of Weston, that's right next to me, is a very, very exclusive, not exclusive, but a very well-to-do town. It's got a high per capita income, or gross income, excuse me, but it's also hugely Venezuelan. There's a massive Latin American population in that city, and they're people that left Venezuela in exile, whatever, and they're oligarchs that are over here, business owners that had businesses in Venezuela and were able to get over here. Cuba's a little different because we had the wet foot, dry foot policy. So, and it's only 90 miles away. I mean, we used to have boats that were like Cadillacs floated, like Coupe de Villes floated by 55-gallon barrels that they would navigate across that 90-mile stretch and get here. And you literally could see, in the 90s and the early 2000s, them arriving on the beach, and once they step foot, they can stay here. And so it's not as exclusively the oligarch class of Cubans that are here in Florida. And so broadly, I think that most of these people want to have some semblance of peace between Cuba and open dialogue and the ability to go and travel there and see, because a lot of them still have loved ones there and, families that are there, and they would love the opportunity to be able to travel back and forth. And it should be relatively cheap. I mean, you could probably have a ferry that would go from Key West to Cuba for, a little bit. So I would think that this would be very, very welcomed with the Cuban population down here in Florida.
Good. Yeah. I always think when we're kind of unwinding these stories that we've been told throughout our lives about these quote unquote dictatorial regimes and the people who have fled them and escaped them, that's the sort of story that will be told about the United States if the deep state is actually uprooted and eliminated. There's a lot of people who have made a lot of money and gained a lot of power from the deep state being deeply embedded in American society for the last 5 decades or 8 decades or centuries, whatever it is, right? So a lot of these people have gained a lot of money, a lot of power, but are nonetheless the sort of deep state criminals that we would want to see held accountable for what they have done to American society. So at the point at which a rival force takes power, and a lot of them seem to see Donald Trump and his supporters as that rival force. At some point, you would expect many of them would leave the country holding on to their money, establish themselves somewhere else, and then also simultaneously refer to themselves as asylum seekers and refugees from the authoritarian regime that has taken over the United States of America. And so their identification then as refugees and the rest of it doesn't really play the same way we are traditionally taught to think about those things. So I wonder, when someone's escaping Venezuela or escaping Cuba to the United States seeking freedom, well, are you seeking the same deep state comfort that you had back in your homeland before you were expelled because of the crime and corruption that you were responsible for there? So, there's just dynamics I play with, and I like getting more information about those things.
Very well could be. Again, I'll keep that front of mind when I'm, talking to people down here, because I do have a ton of Cuban friends.
Well, you remember there was an interesting story in I think it was in the Miami Herald about Rubio and the South Florida neocons who were really interested in an all-out war with Venezuela. And so those same people have the same ideas about Cuba. And I wonder how much of that is in play relative to the Trump effort, which doesn't seem to be aligned with that.
Well, I would definitely say that the politicians in Miami are of the oligarchical breed of Venezuelan and Cubans. We have a lot of Cubans that are in politics down there as well. And I would say that those people probably are in line with what you're alluding to with the Venezuelans. Yeah. All right, let's jump into this story here from Politico. What's gotten into Vladimir Zelenskyy? What an interesting article from Politico. Dude lost the spotlight and he wants it back. This Iran thing is screwing up his mojo. Zelensky's patient appears to be wearing thin, and it's starting to show. In recent weeks, he's sharpened his rhetoric towards both critics and allies, rebuking European leaders for moving too slowly on support, trading barbs with Hungary's Viktor Orban, and openly questioning Donald Trump's approach to the war. It says a former foreign policy advisor to Zelenskyy said, quote, "This frustration is driving the harsher rhetoric. It's a cycle that's becoming self-defeating." The European Union has publicly rebuked the Ukrainian leader over remarks in which he appeared to threaten Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. And I have that clip right here. We can play this clip. Oh, it's in Ukrainian. So he says a certain individual, let me mute it and play it. A certain individual in the European Union will not unblock the $90 billion euros, and Ukrainian soldiers need weapons or will have weapons. Maybe we should give this person's address to our armed forces, to our guys, and let them call him and speak with him in their own language. And that's, of course, referring to Viktor Orban, who's blocked the $90 billion. Reading on, it says the European Commission, in a rare condemnation, told Zelenskyy that he must not make, quote, threats against EU member states. And then there's a couple more clips that I want to play. Oh, wait, I think I had more in this article down here. Yeah, there it is. In an interview with Politico, Zelenskyy suggested Washington was overlooking Russia's responsibility for the war. Quote, "Now, President Trump didn't raise the questions of accountability and nobody speaks about it," he said, arguing that Ukraine had already made significant concessions in the search for peace. Ukraine demonstrated a lot of compromises early, Zelenskyy says. This was the coolest meltdown. Coolest? I don't know if that's the proper word for it, but listen to what he says at the end here.
Europeans made a lot, but didn't put still sanctions on nuclear energy of Russians, on Rosatom, on people, on their relatives, on their children, which live in Europe, which live in the United States, which study in the universities of Europe, which have real estate in the United States. So they have a lot of real estate. They have children, relatives everywhere. Fuck away to Russia. Go home.
Wow. F-bomb?
F-bomb on Politico's Politico Pub. Oh, it's Politico Pub.
Yeah.
Politico Pub. Maybe he had a couple too many.
They built a set to look like a bar so that they can interview wartime Leaders of nations. Is that what we are supposed to believe here?
Oh man.
Okay.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. We do also have this story here. So French soldier killed in drone attack in Iraq's Kurdish region. We'll jump over here to where did it go? Oh man, did I lose it? Oh, I did. I lost it. There was a drone attack and it killed a chief warrant officer in the French service. It's blamed on Iran. So I wonder if that's going to trigger Article 5. That was my first thought. I don't know.
They've been going for Article 5 stuff for a long time with Ukraine. Remember the missile that fell into Polish territory?
Yeah. Yep. Well, Vicegrad 24 said 6 French soldiers were injured in an Iranian drone attack on the joint base of the French Army and Kurdish Peshmerga forces in Erbil Airport in northern Iraq.
It's weird how much of this is happening in Iraq.
Yeah. Does Article 5, does it only trigger if it's a attack on the homeland, or can it be like on a outpost, base?
I am not the person to answer that question.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get back into, we went off. I could have just prepped the show with 3 stories today, and Chris and I could have done 2 hours on this, but we do actually have some news here in the United States. So remember, Tina Peters was she was moved to solitary, investigated for this incident that took place at prison in Colorado, saying that you can see her up here in the top screen, saying that she felony assaulted a fellow inmate. And you can see here, she grabs her by the neck and pushes her back or whatever. And they allege that was felony assault. Well, they're now putting out Tina Peters not guilty of the assault. The prison board rules that Peters acted in self-defense. Former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters was found not guilty today in a Colorado Department of Corrections disciplinary hearing stemming from an altercation with another inmate. Video of this incident was widely circulated, but after carefully looking at the facts, the board concluded that Tina Peters acted in self-defense after being attacked and cornered by a 29-year-old inmate. Today, reason and truth prevailed, says Tina Peters. I was found not guilty. The Department of Corrections fairly considered the evidence and concluded that I defended myself. I'm thankful the board carefully considered the evidence and was not swayed by media coverage. So, why is that playing? There we go. Sorry. So very good to hear that, she obviously was not going to be extended her sentence or whatever. Ash and I had kind of talked about this and thought that maybe this would be a way that they could continue her sentence after she's either pardoned, after it's overturned in appeals, whatever the case might be, to get her out. She's got to get out. She's got to get out. But we thought that might be the way, because, as Ash says all the time, she is their, their token, what would you call it? Their prize from all the election deniers. She's the one that they want to be able to put out there and show this is what we're doing. We don't challenge the elections, or we'll Tina Peters you, kind of thing. So I can't think of the words off the top of my head. I don't know why, but we got another announcement. So we talked the other day about Carrie Lake being removed from the United States Agency for Global Media, which is absurd, saying that she can't serve there because she wasn't previously employed there. A federal judge ruled this. And yeah, dude, we went off yesterday, Gordon and I think it was with Ghost, on Tuesday. Was it Ghost? Yeah, it was on Tuesday with Ghost. And we started reading the statute that was used in this, because there was another situation where they did something similar. And there is a really weird statute. I think it's 15 USC 3364. I want to say off the top of my head. But basically, if somebody resigns from the top position in these agencies, you had to have been employed by the agency prior to in order to be replaced, which is absolutely absurd. That, the president of the United States is somehow restricted from putting the people that he desires to lead an agency in that position. Mm-hmm. So Carrie Lake put this out and says, President Trump tasked me with right-sizing USAGM, a taxpayer-funded global media agency. We've been so effective over the last year that the deep state has done everything they can to stop us, including launching malicious lawsuits at me and the agency. A rotund DC district court judge wants me out of the agency, but despite his absurd orders and ruling, I remain in the exact same position today as I was before, deputy CEO, where I am even more determined to finish the job. Last summer, I testified before Congress on the importance of USAGM's functions integrating into the Department of State, where we can ensure agency priorities align with U.S. foreign policy and the national interest. I look forward to working with Deputy Secretary Rigas, a patriotic fighter with experience reducing the size of government, who will serve as acting CEO. Together, Mike and I will while we wait for the Undersecretary Rogers to be confirmed as USAGM CEO, we will root out corruption at the agency and make it more accountable to American taxpayers.
CEO?
Yes, you caught that. As if it's like a private company or a public company, but not a government bureaucracy.
Exactly. Well, I mean, hey, maybe we're being told that that's what it is.
Well, taking USAGM and putting it under the State Department is a really interesting move. So when you look at the Smith Modernization Act, technically it's only supposed to apply to the State Department, propagandizing foreign countries. The Modernization Act, changes that, of course, but taking USAGM and instead of being an independent bureaucratic agency, putting it directly under the State Department, which is also, let's face it, a bureaucratic agency, but is accountable to, the Smith-Mundt Act. That's kind of interesting to me. Is that a way to reel in the propaganda, levied against Americans and others? I don't think we should be propagandizing anybody in terms of, influencing American policy. The truth is the truth. These color revolutions that we talk about all the time are orchestrated by Voice of America, by Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, all these entities. They kind of prop that up. Obviously, with USAID going away, that's a little more difficult for them now. But USAGM, I'm sure, has a role in this as well. So keep your eyes on that situation there.
Yeah, I'm looking up the CEO thing a little bit. Apparently, the structure comes from the reforms to the old Broadcasting Board of Governors that happened in 2016. So interesting timing there. Something to get into maybe later.
That's very interesting.
How about this, by the way? The agency oversees entities that operate somewhat like media companies, including the Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, and Radio Liberty, Radio Free Asia, but also Middle East Broadcasting Networks and the Office of Cuba Broadcasting.
All the places that we run color revolutions. I did not. So that's one thing I didn't know. I guess that makes sense. USAGM, Radio Free Europe and Asia under them. I thought they were independent agencies. But no, I knew that. What am I talking about? It's just because I said USAID funding drying up. It's making it a little more difficult, it seems like. All right, let's jump into this story here. So John Cornyn was asked about the SAVE Act, and I know that's Chris's favorite topic. I was listening to DPH on Sunday morning when I was driving, and I was like, I agree with Chris, but I also disagree with Chris.
Hey, man, I wish we were living in a different world where these things were better, but they're not.
I know. I thought we had a really good conversation. If you missed me and Chris's conversation about the SAVE Act last week, I think it was a pretty good conversation. And I think I can get behind Chris's point, but I also, I'm a fighter. So I'm going to keep grinding and getting at it. So, but here's John Cornyn talking about this.
What do you have to say to the Americans who are questioning why President Trump should endorse you when many say that you've been vehemently against his agenda?
Do you speak for all these Americans? I don't understand.
Yeah, actually, I do.
Yeah.
Many people are asking this question. Do you have a response? I mean, you've been borderline pro amnesty, red flag laws.
Are you being paid?
Anti-border
Are you
law.
being paid by the Paxton campaign?
No, I'm just a concerned American citizen representing millions of other Americans.
No, I think you're a paid influencer because none of that's true, and you know it.
Okay.
So Cornyn, first, I think she misspoke when she said she represents millions of Americans.
I think he also nailed her on being a paid influencer. I mean, look how she's dressed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if she's a paid influencer for the Paxton campaign or not, but I thought this was really interesting. So this website here, which is, legal news and analysis, Trump score, revived Texas lawmaker voting alignment released. And this is from October 2025. The Texas Republicans least aligned with Donald Trump are John Cornyn, 69%, and Michael McCall, 68.5%, both opposing Trump policy positions across nearly a third of their votes. On the other side of the aisle, Henry Cuellar, 41%, and Greg Casar, 4.92%. So from 41 to 4.92%. The Democratic members most and least aligned with President Trump. So Cornyn, 69%. He says publicly 99%. That's been deemed fact-checked false. But I just thought that was pretty interesting. Some of the key things that he pushed back on was the gun control and red flag laws. I asked Grok about this. It said Cornyn was a lead negotiator in the 2022 bipartisan gun safety bill following a mass shooting, which included enhanced background checks for buyers under 21, funding for state crisis intervention programs, including red flag measures, and other provisions. Trump and many MAGA supporters strongly opposed this as infringing on the Second Amendment, with Trump calling it ineffective or misguided. Critics labeled Cornyn's role as supporting gun control against Trump. There was also immigration issues that he's pushed back on him, saying Cornyn has supported aspects of immigration reform that critics call pro-amnesty or insufficiently hard-lined compared to Trump's border wall focus and strict enforcement. And we can land that there. Just, kind of tying into what you were saying last Friday and on DPH about, what this means and Trump hasn't endorsed Cornyn yet, right?
He hasn't endorsed at all.
Right. And anyone in that race yet. So I'm kind of wondering if he is going to endorse Cornyn, we got to see something happen with that SAVE Act, I would imagine.
Yeah, perhaps. Isn't it coming to the floor for a vote that is destined to fail?
Wasn't it yesterday that was supposed to be voted on? But
I didn't see it. So
let me look that up real quick.
Yeah. I made a post on Substack the other day about the Trump endorsements and, understanding that our elections are fake. It kind of gives a different perspective on what an endorsement means. If Trump is aware of how these selections are going to be decided, it would make sense for him then to take all of the rhinos who are going to be installed in office through fake elections and then endorse them so that he gets the credit for them winning. All these Trump candidates have won, and he'll get credit for anything good they do in office, which makes it impossible for them to sell their agenda without Trump getting credit for the good things they do. And Trump will never end up being blamed for the bad things they do because he'll just call them rhinos because that's what they are. Is that more explanatory of the endorsement strategy for Donald Trump than the idea that he's just picking out the best people and hoping that they'll win when he knows that the elections are already rigged? I would suggest that his endorsements are done to thwart the ability of rhinos from getting all of the credit for the things that they do and for their election wins pushed toward the Republican establishment. So if Trump gets a 95% correct endorsement victory correlation after one of these election cycles, if he hadn't endorsed any of those people and they had all won anyway, who would get responsibility for that? Well, the Republican establishment would get responsibility for that. And it would be very easy to then paint Trump and MAGA as somewhere on the fringe because none of their candidates won. Of course, none of their candidates were ever going to win because they were all kept out of the process since the primary stage and before. So I think that it's really important to play these situations out with a realistic understanding of what our election process really is, rather than analyzing this thing as though we have these real elections. We know that they're rigged, right? We can go much further than that and say that they're fake. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that. But we know that at least they are rigged. Why then are we analyzing them as though they are real and legitimate elections that express the will and intent of the American voter or the Texan voter. They're not that. So there has to be some other explanation going on behind there. And Trump, of course, is more aware of these things than we are.
That is a very, very good assessment. I agree. I think with all of it. I think so.
I'm just saying something different is going on with the Trump endorsements. And this is, again, one of these things I've been talking about since 2022. There's something else happening here, and we just ignore what that thing is because we don't want to commit ourselves to the fact that these elections just really are fake and they are decided by entities that are not the people. They are decided before the people ever interact with these things. And so what does it mean that he endorses under those conditions?
I agree. I agree with that there's absolutely something going on. So the SAVE Act is next week. I've never seen this before. I wanted to highlight this. I use Brave, which is essentially the Google, whatever. Have you ever seen this before? News from the left, news from the right.
I think that I have seen that. I think that that's a setting on Brave because I use Brave, although I don't use Brave for search.
I do, like on the fly like this. I mean,
I think
I've never seen that before, dude. That's kind of not good. Like you can now, like, do you want to be red pilled or blue pilled? Like you can literally just, do I want to, feel good and get in my echo chamber? Like that's disgusting, man.
Well, it's also then them deciding what's left and what's right. And they're doing that in a controlled opposition dynamic with a uniparty. It's all left. There's only left in mainstream politics.
That's really concerning, man. I have never seen that before. I did see, the other day, like I saw, and we're gonna pop open the phone lines here for about 10 minutes in a second, as soon as I wrap this up. But I saw the other day, I think it was on Google, that you can now designate the news sources that you want to populate the top of your search.
Well, I mean, hey man, it's choose your own adventure. Everybody has to be discerning on their own. And if people out there think that discernment, that the only element to being discerning is reading news from the right sources, which is what a lot of Americans think. They think these are the good sources. This is where I can get information from. And all those other sources are bad sources. That's like
absurd.
That's not even, you're not even in the game at that point.
Absurd. Yeah. I don't give a shit about the source. Well, the source of the news, not, I'm always the one that's trying to, like, you'll see in my writing, when I write a story, I source everything. Like there's a hyperlink to every single claim I'm making. I link to the source documents, to the, whatever. The mainstream media doesn't do that. And that's one of the worst things, I think, is that they don't do. Like some of them do, just the news does. You dig deeper and they've got all the sources in there. But most, like Fox News is the worst. Fox News, you're like, oh, there's a link to this. Maybe I can see where they're getting this idea from. And it's a link to, some
other Fox News article.
Yeah, another Fox News article from, whatever. And it's not even about that specifically. It's like linked to a homepage where you can click on all these different videos that have nothing to do with the topic whatsoever. I hate it. Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll open up the phone lines here. 561-877-1367. And let me go ahead and put this on do not disturb. And I want to play this clip right here. I played it on Sit Rep last night. And I know I've been like beating this story to death, but it's just because I think this story is so hilarious. The steak and lobster story. This was CNN, I think on Wednesday night.
He has spent $15 million in 1 month for ribeye steak, $6.9 million for lobster tail, $225 million for furniture. He spent more in the month of September than most countries on earth spend in their defense.
Paul, do you believe
all for himself? Lobster tails?
Do you believe
while our troops are eating MREs?
No.
Do
you believe the Secretary of Defense is personally eating all the lobster?
Well, he can't eat 16.
Troops.
Oh, really? The troops are getting lobster
frequently in theater.
My God!
Troops who are going to war.
Oh my God!
Great meal. You know that.
They're getting lobster. You are so full of it.
Killed over this.
You're
going to get killed over this. Internet, do something.
All of these people, including Scott Jennings, are just so embarrassing.
I like Scott Jennings. I like Scott, but he's the good cop in this situation, right? He's the good
cop. Yes,
I get it. But I like He's a great actor in this movie. He's a great actor.
Isn't he supposed to be replacing Mitch McConnell in Kentucky or something like that?
Is he?
Isn't he going to run?
I haven't heard that. This was Representative Melanie Stansbury. She's from New Mexico.
And that is probably why reporting now is telling us Secretary Hegseth misappropriated $93 billion, not million, but $1 billion, just a couple of months ago on lobster and king crab and cable TV and furniture for the Department of Defense.
Oh man, we got a call here. And I realized the audio was really low on that. I apologize. But yeah, she basically doubles down and says, why aren't we funding SNAP and healthcare? And it's like, you're going to argue that over the troops? Okay.
Call from
Aaron.
Aaron, how are you doing, sir? And welcome to the show.
If I was doing any better, I'd be you, of course.
I don't know about that. What's up?
Great show. It's always good to hear Chris Paul's faking gay takes on everything. He's very close to everything, I think. He's really honed this to an art. And I want to thank you, CannCon, for being on my show. I think it was a couple of years ago now.
This is Truth Quest. Good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Good to hear from you.
And Chris Paul, you're welcome to come on the Truth Quest too. And keep your prayers out for Andrew DiBisciago. He's recovering from something I can't talk about, but he's getting stronger every day.
Absolutely.
And he was the one that his father was head of the program, Project Pegasus, DARPA's Project Pegasus. And they did teleportation. 1968, he teleported 2,000 miles with his father from New Jersey to Santa Fe, New Mexico, with just electricity. And they perfected it by 1970, and his dad wanted to bring it public, but they never would do that. So on his dad's deathbed, he said, okay, son, gather the family together, tell them what we did, and then tell the world. And that's what he's been doing, blowing the whistle with all of the names, all the scientists he worked with, Dr. Harold Agnew of Los Alamos, all of them. And so, yeah, pretty incredible stuff. And it's an incredible story. And I can't wait till that is made public.
Can you, Paul, can you put that name in the chat just so that I have the spelling and everything of it?
Andrew DiBisciago.
Yeah, but I can't. I have no idea how to spell DiBisciago. That could be like very.
Okay.
But yeah, put it in the chat so I can read it, and I'll see what I can look into it. But appreciate the call as always. God bless.
Great show.
Thank you so much.
Take care, man.
Appreciate it.
Bye bye.
All right, let me see if I can grab that name there. I don't really have much to say on that because I'm not familiar with that story. So I could pull this back up. So it does the same thing, the steak and lobster, and then goes into the, the SNAP benefits. And this is something a lot of them, the reason I'm hitting this so hard is because this is their response to the Somali fraud, to the SNAP fraud, waste, and abuse that's come out already. And their response is to attack the U.S. troops, the way that, what's that guy's name? Peter Bagal, I think is his name. The same way that guy attacks the troops like that. I love this story. This is one of my favorite stories thus far in 2026. And we're only in March. Love it. All right. I guess we don't have any more calls. So we will we got about 10 minutes. We can wrap it up. Nobody wants to talk to us today, Chris. We are wildly unpopular.
Nothing wrong with early Fridays, buddy.
Yeah, early Fridays. We got Why We Vote coming up tonight, so be sure to check that out at 7:30 p.m. I always get the timing off on that one. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Check that out for sure. I think tonight we're going to be talking about Arizona as we had the Runbeck story and everything else coming down in the news, and it'll be a good time. Got a couple rants here. Actually, you know what, though? Before we do the rants, we should probably hit our final sponsor and talk about some Tiny Bright.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
We have the best commercial producers ever here at Badlands Media.
That one was amazing.
That one was absolutely amazing. The Alpha Chinaman one, the bearded one. What was the other one? The Margie's mom, Jay's mom, Margie the Moistureless. It's just great, man. Just really great ads. We do have one more sponsor here. Guys, here's a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons that we use Rumble. They made a way to super chat creators so that we get paid immediately and without any fees. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% in fees when you tip creators. This method takes none. That's right. The platform takes 0 fees. We keep nearly 100% of what you send. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether, US dollar, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stable coins. The tip will show up directly on our Rumble chat, which we do our best to read, which we're about to do here. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips so your favorite creators can tip you. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the App Store. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. We love it. All right, so thank you to Rumble Wallet. Secrets. Chris Paul Friday, CP, it took me a second. Chris Paul Friday, thanks, gentlemen, for your time lurking. Good to see you. Good to see you. Doc from Amish, PA. Men, you are not that smooth talking. You are not that good looking. If it seems too easy, it is. No hospitals, no jail. Have a safe weekend. Dismissed. Is that a threat?
I don't know. I think he's just trying to remind us that we should keep it under control.
I mean, I know I'm not good looking.
I love me some Doc from Amish, PA.
I know. So do I, but look, if we didn't know that name, I would take that as a no hospitals, no jail. Have a safe weekend. Dismissed. Like, ooh, okay. Good to see you. Emerald Dragon, Friday the 13th is always good for me. Lots of 13s in my life, bringing great things. And today is my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Emerald Dragon's mom. Happy birthday. Nuremberg 2023. Thank you, Chris and Brian. CannCon is impressive how you are so prepared with tons of useful information every weekday. Also, you work with each different co-host so seamlessly. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. My co-hosts are absolutely incredible. A lot of you guys don't know this. They have very little interaction with me before the show. They come on here and they shoot from the hip on this. I have all morning to prep. They shoot from the hip. So my co-hosts are absolutely fantastic. And so, I appreciate their insights.
Couldn't happen without you, buddy. You are the rock of Badlands that kicks off every day.
Well, Badlands Daily. I'm the rock of Badlands Daily. I think me and John might have some. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm saying you kick off the network 5 days a week. That's a big deal.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Is John back on Daily Herald today?
I believe that he is.
Okay. Because I didn't see it yesterday, and I know Ash was covering for him on Tuesday and Wednesday. So, S. Busen, great coverage. Thank you both for all you do. Thank you so much. Bobo Fu. I hope I'm saying that right, but I kind of say it as quickly as I can because I have no idea how to say that word. Bobo Fu. Good show, guys. Thank you so much. Emerald Dragon. I feel like they are just freeing up Carrie Lake for her real role. And that is interesting. A lot of the roles are kind of starting to change here. Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson had that clip about how like Noam's out, so deportation is going to become a little more normalized, and we've got Tom Homan and we've got Mark. You didn't see this clip?
Mm-mm.
I had it pulled up for today, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to play this, but now I'm going to because you haven't seen it yet.
Oh, all right.
Sorry, man. So much for early Fridays. You should have just played along. You should have just played along.
Listen, we had a huge demographic shift in the 2024 election, as you referenced, and all those groups and others who came into the Republican Party, not reluctantly, but they came with hopeful anticipation. Two reasons for that: we were presenting common sense solutions to the challenges they were facing, and the Democrat Party left them behind. As I say all the time, I said earlier this morning, this is not your father's Democratic Party. They do not resemble what a generation ago they did. Their platforms are radically different now, and they're most of them are avowed socialist or Marxist, and they're going too far left. So all those people we can hold and have a durable governing common sense majority for their foreseeable future. We got a little hiccup with some of the Hispanic and Latino voters for certain, because some of the immigration enforcement was viewed to be overzealous, and everybody can describe it differently. But here's the good news: we're in a course correction mode right now. We're going to have a new Secretary of Homeland Security. Mark Wayne Mullen is going to be do a great job in that role. I'm sure that he'll be confirmed by the Senate. He's a thoughtful guy. He'll bring a thoughtful approach. You have somebody like Tom Homan, who has 40 years experience in the field and was decorated by former Democrat presidents for his acumen and expertise. And he went into Minneapolis and brought calm to the chaos there. That's what you're going to see. And I think that the Hispanic and Latino voters who came to us came for a number of reasons. They were very animated about the open border and all the negative secondary effects that came from that, but they also concerned about the cost of living and the lack of jobs and all these other things that everyone's concerned about. So we have a great record to run on, Scott. The reason we're going to win the midterms, the reason we're going to defy history and do it, this was a number of factors. I have a very boring 90-minute slideshow that I could show you this morning, show you all the reasons.
All right, we can land that there, but really interesting. He calls it a course correction. Like, and that's in Doral. He's in Doral when he says that. So this is, I think they did their House Republicans retreat down in Doral, and Trump was down in Doral. So I don't know his involvement in that retreat. But I mean, if I were Trump and you came out and called my immigration policy over the last year a mandate, right? He's had a mandate for this, a course correction to get rid of Kristi Noem and put Mark Wayne Mullen in there. Mark Quain, excuse me, I forgot that. Mark Quain. I don't know. I thought that was very interesting choice of words there.
Yeah, we'll see what actually happens, but I think you're probably onto something.
Yeah. He also says we're gonna defy history and win the midterms.
Guess we'll see.
Elections are fake, so I mean,
I just keep hoping they get canceled, to be honest.
You could have predetermined outcomes. I mean, Trump did say this is the last time you'll have to vote in 2024.
He did say that. And people freak out. Like, you want to cancel elections? What would be what's the downside of canceling elections? Trump's still there, right? So we just don't install a new Congress and Senate so that they can't legislate for us? What legislating are they doing right now? What are they doing that is good? And what new people do you want to put there? Like, do you have these congressmen and senators out there that you're like, oh, I can't wait till that guy gets in office? And if you don't have that feeling, why do you want to vote so bad?
I'll land this right here. Ran 132 with the last minute rant there. Thank you so much. This great show, deep analysis per usual. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Just one last question. I'll throw out there real quick, and we can end it on this. You can discuss it, whatever. Do you think the House of Representatives, with being limited to 2-year terms, is too little?
Do I think the 2-year terms are too little? No, I think 2 years is good. And I think that it's my reading of some of the founders' writings and anti-federalists and the rest of it, that every public representative is up for recall at all times. Everyone serves at the people's will and consent, and that consent can be revoked and withdrawn whenever they want. And I think that that's what we need to get back to.
So when you look at the historical context of the Constitution and the term limit, or not the term limits, but the limited time for that particular term, we didn't have campaigning the way that we have right now. Sure. And you're literally, I mean, that window is opening wider and wider now, to the point where you're primarying almost the day after you're sworn in at Congress. And there is no, and you see this in the Senate. You see senators like, oh, he's not up for re-election for 4 more years, so he's going to vote his will, allegedly. I don't know. Do you think maybe
I would suggest that these are election-related problems, and specifically fake election-related problems. If we were voting for congressmen in the proper number of congressmen, which of course you've talked about many times that we don't have, but if we were doing that with somebody who we had at least the opportunity for some local contact with, and we were just focused on electing our local officials and that one congressman, it would be an entirely different scenario. And that scenario would be manageable. And then the congressmen collectively in the state of Texas or in Florida or in California or New York or wherever, they would then be the electors of the president, and they are all directly accountable to the people, and then representing the people's interests, including in that process as well. We are so far away from the process as designed. And I'll just cap it off here. The founders set up a system so that it would operate as the system that they set up. And if the checks and balances were there and the rest of it, okay, that's not the system we have anymore. And so we can't just pretend that because it's called the Constitution now, it is somehow working properly. It's not.
Asa Waven. All shows are why we vote now. That's a point. That's a term that Ash has coined. Jennifer Ray says every show is why we vote. No, it's all shows are why we vote now. Asa Waven.
There you go.
All right, Chris Paul, thank you so much for joining me this Friday. Thank you guys all so much.
Ryan, 1 second. I'll just tell everybody out there, if you are interested, this afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be doing an episode on my Substack channel for paid subscribers on that Substack, where I go very far through the controlled opposition dynamic, narrative reality construction, the discombobulator, and a bunch of other subjects that I think will give people a clearer understanding of what it is I'm doing. So if you are interested in that sort of stuff, I encourage you to check that out.
What time is that at?
3 p.m. Eastern. I'm your moderator.substack.com.
I think I will check that out for sure. I don't have anything until Why We Vote, and I'm very curious after today's conversation to hear that. So, all right, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Smash that thumbs up. Check out our sponsors, and I will see you guys tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with Ash on Why We Vote. God bless, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.